Hi, yay. We're here.
Yay, here we are. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm going to turn around here so the light is better. Um our Wi-Fi is not working, so you're on my phone.
No problem.
All good.
We've been having a Wi-Fi problem too the past couple of days. I don't know what's going on.
Totally Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the link you sent me on YouTube didn't work. I'm not sure why.
Oh. Well, I made it private.
I think that's why, because I
Maybe.
think, yeah, I think because it's
But I feel like if it's private, you should be able to get there with the link. Is that true or not true?
I don't know, because someone else tried to send me a link once and the same thing happened, because it says when I click on it, this is not available, it's private.
Okay.
So why don't you make it public, and if I'm like, I take it down, I'll let you know,
Then
but
I'll
I
take it
doubt that.
down. Okay.
Yeah, I doubt that.
Problem solved. I'll do that right after this. Have fun.
So
Congratulations.
um,
Thanks for trusting and taking that step. How exciting.
hey, you know what, we have to these days, right? We have to.
Mhm.
Um, and I want to hear, all about your course. So I want to I want to ask you
Okay.
the questions, and so we can, really get this out and really help people who need this to find you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that intention behind it, rather than just us talking about it. I like using it as like a gift and act of service. Like even just using this conversation as that gift
Hmm.
of service. Beautiful.
Yeah, because it's what you are, I mean, it's
Thanks.
what's coming through you. It's what you are. And the most beautiful gifts can't just be left at home. They have to be shared.
Hmm.
But sometimes it takes friends to help us remember that we are sharing a gift, right?
Ooh, yeah, that's important.
Because we it's like we live with these, we live with who we are, and we live with these parts of ourselves that we don't even recognize are anything other than just something that is part of what everybody has. And we see the spectacular way other people have gifts, but we don't always see our own, because to us it's probably just part of,
I mean, it's normal. It's who we are.
it's
It
who we
doesn't
are.
feel special.
Yes. Yes.
And to take that even a step further, it can feel like, well, who am I to think I'm special? Who am I to step forward with this? We through our whole upbringing, it's like, well, you have to wait till teacher calls on you. You have to wait till you're chosen. You have to wait until, like, raise your hand and wait your turn.
Yes.
And we're not taught to, like, just throw it all out there. Like, here's what I have to offer.
Well, you're 100% right. And also, you know, don't take up too much of the time, right? Give other people a chance to talk.
Yeah.
And so, and how often in school did a teacher say, wow? I mean, at least with me, it was like never. Wow, what you just said is so remarkable. With me, they were more like, what?
No, that's not true. That can't be true.
Oh, it is though. It really is, because yeah. I mean, I think there were a couple male teachers that would say to my parents, like, she's very magnetic, or, she's very compelling. But there was something about the women. Okay, so Mrs. Plock couldn't stand me because she was my kindergarten teacher, and she thought that she was going to get another Ferrari child, just like my brother, who is 2 years ahead of me in school, who was the picture perfect kid. And then she gets me. And I am just this vibrant, skipping around, not sitting still child. Then Mrs. Armstrong, I start moving my desk around because I wanted to be like near the window, and I'm in first grade, and she's going, "What are you doing?" And I have this like Apple, name tag on that says Karena Ferrari, and she goes, "I am not smiling, Karena Ferrari." And I'm like, "Oh, great, that's first grade." Then second grade, my teacher was really nice, actually, Mrs. Scharouse. She was very, very nice. And she was the first teacher who actually did make me want to be a good girl. And then third grade was Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. Smith was actually my favorite, because Mrs. Smith was a Black woman, and I think she understood what it was like to be different. And she actually had a special place in her heart for me. That's true. Fourth grade was Mr. Curtis. He was great. Fifth grade, whew, Mrs. Finfer. She was so bad that my brother went when he was in seventh grade and told her off. That's how bad she was with me. Sixth grade, Miss Muller, the worst. And then you go into like seventh and eighth grade, the worst. And then high school, bad, until I was a junior in high school, and I
Wow.
yes. Because I wasn't that kid that was going to just sit there and say whatever you say is right. I would say, I don't believe that, or this is so ridiculous, or I don't want to read that book and write a book report on it. I want to read Jane Eyre, so I'm reading Jane Eyre. Well, you said that we could choose one of the books. Yes, but you had to tell me which book ahead of time. And so and then I would say, that is wrong. Like, I read this book and I wrote a beautiful book report on it. What are all these rules? Like, this is so ridiculous. And then they would say, well, if people don't follow the rules in life, then we don't have structure. Then we don't have,
Mm-hmm.
But I came from this European family, and I had very strong opinions. I still do. And I found that structure so incredibly boring. And so you know what I was? And I still am? A radical disruptor. Radical disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of teacher wants that kid that's a radical disruptor?
No,
Only
they
the
just want to do their job and get through their day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, unless they're really like, let me create some, type of disruptor, who's going to, but I think most light leaders that are light leaders now were either compelled to be disruptors as children and weren't, or were. And also, I'm an indigo child. So an indigo child too, it's like, I read about indigo children and it's like, check, 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 check. I was born that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So for people who have these light leading, gifts, when you're so conditioned to be quiet, that's
Mm-hmm.
wrong. You
Mm-hmm.
don't speak up now. You don't say that. You don't share that. You don't disrupt the status quo by even being loud, by using your voice, by saying what you have to say. You listen to the system and you don't invent your own. Right?
Yes.
So here you are doing this course, and I can't imagine that you, of all people, had, so much support all the time, and just awesome, Tory.
Well, it's funny. You of all people. I like that a lot. So as you're telling me this history of yourself, it's, you know, I'm thinking about my own educational upbringing, and I in my own way. So I think I was both like your brother, like the ideal model student, but
Hmm.
also the rabble rousing disruptor. But like in a kind of subversive kind in a subversive way, not like the class clown or somebody who's like
Oh,
really standing up and like causing a disruption.
right, right.
But in my school, in and I went to a public school, and as you're saying this, I'm realizing like how special it was. I would think I was part of a group of disruptors. I think there was like 10 of us in my year, and we were like the bad kids but smart. And
So
like
you had a
teachers
pure
didn't really want to
disruption.
take us on field trips because we got into like we weren't so well behaved because we had opinions and we were excited and we were curious and like we wanted to experience the world and life. And so like all through school I was in the gifted programs, or I had like special writing classes, or I learned to use computers before everybody else, and they found ways to keep me and a few of my classmates engaged in a way that was different than the regular curriculum. And I didn't really realize until right now how special that was and how it cultivated this
Yeah,
like choose your own adventure spirit in me,
that's
while
awesome.
also like I knew what the rules were and I knew what, you know, like maybe I didn't do all my homework, but I did the right homework to pass the test. And I read enough of the book to pass the quiz. And I knew how to play their games. And so it
Mm.
kind of made me like I don't know, some sort of like sneaky genius or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
definitely. Oh yeah, like you knew how to play into the system and
Mhm.
still be you.
But
That's
then, you
pretty
know, of
awesome.
course, like the normal childhood things of like, I don't quite fit in here. I don't really belong. People aren't really like me. They're not talking about the things that I think about. And so you do have to chart your own path and forge your own way and find people who maybe they don't think exactly like you, but you feel like some sort of understanding or camaraderie with them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And if you can still be yourself and have that, you're pretty, pretty lucky.
Absolutely. But also, you know, the be yourself question, I think, and I know I'm finding this for myself and the women that I work with, I think that's really a question that women in our 40s are really just coming to try to figure out. You know, I know for a lot of women it's taken us this long to kind of have the courage to find out who she is.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe that's what this whole um course you're doing is about, helping people find the
Sure.
courage to be who they really are, right? And
Yeah.
because really what matters more in life than being who we really are, because that's when we really become the highest version of ourselves. Really.
Sure. But that raises a really interesting problem because we're not taught to be ourselves and we're not taught to bend the rules, and we're, you know, like it's really going against everything your parents taught you, your teachers taught you. the way society expects you to be, the way you're meant to, you know, choose your career and rise up the ranks and pay your dues. And those things are changing. But for the women our age, you know, no one's given us permission to do this. No one's told us, like, okay, the rules have changed. Here's how you do it. Here's how you handle your emotional state. Here's how you gather the courage. Here's how to figure out what you even want to do. Here's how to talk to your friends and family about it, because it's going to seem weird maybe to the people who care about you and the people who are scared for you, or who are threatened somehow by you doing something that's different.
So tell me about you know, the 3 months that you're putting together for this, because I know it's what is it, Priestess Queen?
It's
and
Warrior Priestess Queen.
Warrior
I
Priestess.
chose that order for a specific purpose, but I'll walk you through it. So in talking about getting into our courage, the idea of the warrior as a woman, the warrior as this alive spark and energy that's inside all of us, and she's inside all of us. It's not, you know, something somebody else has that you don't, you know. And it's not only in battle, it's not only in conflict, it's not only when you're raging and fighting and furious. It's in the devotion to be your best self. It's in the devotion to do the work behind the scenes. You know, sort of like an athlete or a dancer or a musician, or I mean, anyone who's devoted to their craft. You spend hours learning the new skills, learning and mastering the new techniques, rising through the ranks of what you're doing for maybe that one moment where you get to shine. You know, that one moment where you're on stage, that one moment, you know, maybe it's like 2 minutes where you're playing your song that you've been practicing all year for this moment. And it doesn't have to be such an extreme situation as being a performer, but it's about the quiet devotion and diligence that it takes to get up every day and do your work, to get up every day and to live your purpose, to get up every day and share your art, to get up every day and maybe you're a little bit stronger than you were yesterday. Maybe you're, you know, maybe your pose that you're working, that's new, maybe you're working on an inversion in your yoga practice and it gets a little bit better the next day. It's about showing up. It's about believing in your ability and your tapping into the grit that it takes to show up the next day, to carry on, to believe in your purpose so much that it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what other people are going to say. It doesn't matter what your parents think about it, or your partner, or your kids, or your friends, or your, it doesn't matter, because it's just like, it has to come through you.
And so how do people get there when they're in this warrior phase, right? And they're talking to you and you're helping them through. And they say to you, I have these passions. It's coming through me. I know it is. But when I post about it and I invite people to this program, for example, and only 3 people even respond, I feel invisible. And then I start to get scared and I don't want to go back and put myself out there again tomorrow, because I'm too vulnerable, I'm too exposed. I'm letting everyone know that I have this passion, but people aren't hearing me or listening to me.
I love
I
that
receive that
question.
question a lot from people.
Hmm.
That's a
And
big one.
I love
So,
how that walks the line of warrior into priestess. Um, so from the embodiment of the warrior archetype in this situation, the warrior is all about doing the work that it takes to get to that moment, to push post, to hit send, to get it out there, to release it into the world. It's about, you know, creating your boundaries, getting your support, being firm in yourself and your confidence and your self-belief, because it's that moment of like releasing it that takes the courage. That's the moment of courage, when I hit send, when I hit post, when I hit go live, when I step into like, okay, I've created this thing, it is the pure expression of me, I am willing to put it out in the world, here we go. And then we step into the priestess, who, and this maybe feel is going to feel like triggering or uncomfortable, but hear me out. She is all about connecting with spirit and knowing that when I'm in full alignment and integrity with my mission and purpose, it becomes God's work. It's not up to me to decide how many likes are the right amount of likes, how many signups are the right amount of signups, how many shares are the right amount. It's not up to me to decide. It's up to me to do the work. It's up to me to
oh,
be
this is so
so
beautiful.
like aligned with my
Yes.
mission that it doesn't matter if nobody, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if no one signs up, because this is how the message is meant to come through me right now, and the rest is out of my hands. I have to do my work to show up every day, to live my truth, live my message, let it flow through me. And then it's God's work to connect it with those who need to hear me. But my job is to show up every day and to let it out there, to shine my light, to give them the opportunity to connect with what I have to offer that will then ignite what they have to offer. And maybe through my courage stepping up every day, it inspires them to start showing up differently, or inspires them to rise up, or inspires them to rock the boat a bit. But in my priestess energy, I know that when I am in this like fully aligned, the message is moving through me. And in this program, we do the work to really receive the message and to open the channel of receiving, and to really step into what it is that spirit is using you for in this life, in this body, in this time. But it's about, I can receive it, I could do the work to release it, and then it's out of my hands. And I think that's the hardest part, honestly. The release, the releasing without expectation, the release without emotional attachment.
Which goes
And
back to warrior, right? I mean, that's when you have to go back into the warrior phase from the priestess phase, when you
but I think it's even like standing more firm in my priestess phase. Like, I am so fully in trust and alignment that I know that simply by showing up in this energy of love, compassion, generosity, understanding, service, that the right thing is going to happen. And it doesn't, maybe like nobody signs up for your program, but maybe a month from now you get a high paying client because they saw you and they connected and they knew what you're up to. Or maybe it leads to you being invited to speak at a conference that changes thousands of lives, or you don't know how the work is going to unfold. But if you continue to show up every day in this fully aligned faith in your purpose and your mission, it can't not spread like wildfire. It can't not change the lives that it's meant to. It has to connect and enliven and inspire and touch people. And if it's not, that's kind of none of your business. You know, your business is to get it in front of the right people. Your business is to do the work, to be aligned and sharing your message and moving your work into the world with generosity and love and kindness. And then it's sort of up to spirit to like make the right things happen. And that's the work that we do, to release the expectation, to release the judgment, to release the fear. Although the fear is going to be there, and the fear is going to show up, and the fear is going to try to hold us back, but we'll do the work to make friends with the fear and maybe use it as fuel to move us forward and help us to share our message. Or maybe it's something that we talk about in our messaging because it's real and it's happening for us. And everybody needs to know that it's okay. And maybe just because you're scared isn't the reason to not do it. Going back to the warrior, I'm sure warriors are scared when they're going into battle. You know, they don't know what's going to happen. They could die. And I know that in this online business thing, it can feel like you're going to die when you're putting your heart out there for people to like and judge and share and tweet and all these things. I need some water.
This is fabulous.
Thanks.
Now, what about when you go from warrior to priestess and then there's second guessing?
Of course there will be, because you're undoing like your lifetime of training. You're undoing this character persona that you put on yourself. And unfortunately, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable shedding your skin. It's uncomfortable letting go of those layers. It's uncomfortable letting go of what's not coming with you. You know, we certainly do the work of releasing old patterns, but also belongings, friendships, relationships, the things that are not serving us to move us forward.
Is that,
I'm not saying you have to break up with your family, but there are different ways of relating, and there's different ways of letting people support you, and there are different ways of going through life that are going to support this next phase.
it's beautiful. So do you have people do things like cleaning out their belongings as well?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, so they're going, like they're purging things that they're holding on to. They're purging, maybe not necessarily purging. You know, I'm just thinking of a student who came up to me the other day and said that she's been, I mean, this, you know, this is her life. She's been a member of a beach club with her family for all these years. And that this summer, that's her friend. And those are her friends. That's her tribe. That's where her kids go. But this summer, something came over her where she said, I'm done with this. This is not where I want to spend my summers anymore. And how frightening it is for her to, you know, and this is very small in the big, you know,
yeah, but it's also
but
huge.
This is her,
it's huge.
It's huge. It's relative to her, and it's huge for her, right?
Sure.
So it's all relative, right? So, but to her, this was a crisis. How does she do this? And what are people going to say? Who's going to say, what, we're not good enough for you anymore? Who's going to, how are her kids going to feel that they don't go back there anymore? And then the second guessing of, what about if it's, you know, this is what she was saying to me, was, what about if it's just me? What about if it's just that I just can't tolerate certain environments? What about, and so watching her go through this made me realize, and then today we have this huge eclipse, right? It's like the longest eclipse of this century. So all these things that we need to let go of in order to move forward, they're like, the universe is helping us do it, and we know that.
It's the perfect time. It is perfect timing for this. And I mean, it is exactly right. That feels like a really big deal. when that happens. You know, we think about it rationally as like, oh, it's not a big deal. I don't want to do the beach club, but it's huge, and it stirs up a lot of stuff within us, but it also causes upheaval in our lives and for the lives connected to us. And it's not a small thing. And so in this program, actually at the very beginning, and we revisit this again and again as we grow and change, but we set a very clear intention of where we're going, of how we want things to be, of what that life is that we're stepping into, that we kind of close the gap between where I am now and where I want to be by getting very firm in that place of where I want to be, and then starting to act like that person. So
starting to act like that person.
Yes, becoming it, not waiting to become that person, because that's never going to happen. That's always like, I'm here, it's always going to be like 3 months away, or when I lose 10 pounds, or when I have the money, or, you know, it's like
So,
that gap never closes. But if you
so
can
you help people become that person. Like your courses.
That you have amazing, fulfilling friendships, that you have more than enough time and money and freedom and passion and creativity and fun and joy. Like, you have to figure out who that woman is that has those things and what's important to her. And then you start making new decisions based on that, rather than new decisions based on who you are right now that feel good. You have to decide, like, well, what would she be deciding? What would she want? What's she eating? How's she treating herself? What is she wearing? Who is she spending time with? Maybe she needs to find some new friends, or maybe she needs to strengthen some friendships, or maybe she needs to speak some truth to some people. Who knows? But you're never going to get there until you decide who you want to be, and then rearrange everything in your life to be that. And that's actually stepping into the queen, is like, I'm in my throne. This is who I am. This is who I want to be. And this is the support I need. And I need to be firm in it. And it's not selfish. It's actually very selfless, because then you can be a better mother, servant to your community, leader in your groups, you know, a better connector in your friendships. You can, if once you're making more money, because it's another part of this whole program, is women need to get more money in their hands so they can be doing the wonderful things that they will do with the money. You know, maybe one of your missions, and this is one of mine, is to work with Pencils of Promise and build a school for children. That is something I would love and look forward to crossing off my list. I want to build a school. So I need to be the woman who can call in the money and enact that level of service where I can do that. And so I need to create the systems and structures in my life that can allow me to rise to that level of service. And so maybe I need more support in my home. Maybe I need extra money in my life so that I can hire help. This is one thing that is often a sticking point for my clients. You know, when they get to the point and they're like, I would really love to hire somebody to clean my house, or I would really love help with cooking, or I would love help with the kids. And we feel like we have to do it all. And we feel guilty if we can't. We feel guilty if we want to hire somebody. And in this queen energy, it's not about guilt, it's about service. Like, I know my work is so important and beautiful in the world that I need to do everything I can to give myself the full energy and support to move that thing into the world. And through that, the energy coming back to me, because money is energy and it's a reflection of the good that we're sharing. With that extra money energy, I can make somebody else's dreams come true. I can hire somebody to clean my house that has a small cleaning business that they've started. And by supporting them, I'm helping them create their best life. Like, that's not selfish. That's gorgeous. That's generous. That's inspiring, you know, that you're supporting somebody else's dream to come true. And then when you hire your chef, you're making their dream come true. And we have to change our thinking
It's
around all of.
expansive. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's expansive. It's very, very true. Um, you know, I definitely I definitely did something like that before I met my husband in my own way.
Mhm,
And I was living in New York, and I left New York and I moved out to the country, and I just really it's reminding me right now as you're saying this how I need to go back to that place where I was really in that alignment in order for my next dreams to manifest.
mhm,
Because right now I've just been sort of not really doing what I need to do in terms of creating all these environments, even mind environments or boundary environments or all that stuff to get to the next level.
mhm,
I've just been, I guess part of it is also having teenagers and everything being about my kids right now, which is fine.
mhm,
But when my daughter goes to college, which is going to be in a few years, and then my son's in high school, I'm going to need to start using these gifts that I have in a much more public way,
mhm,
with a much bigger platform, because I know I'm supposed to, right?
mhm,
So maybe right now I'm just not there because I right now this whole summer has been about, my daughter getting her driver's license, which she just got today.
oh, congratulations.
Yay! And colleges and driving the kids to and from different camps and work, et cetera, which is all good. It's a beautiful thing. I
Mhm,
love being a mom. So maybe there's a part of me that needs to get rid of the fear of not being able to still be a great mom when I step into that
mhm,
next level, because I have to
mhm,
level up my business. I
mhm,
have to. It's time. And it's also time because I know people need what I have to offer. And I
yeah,
do know that, but
mhm,
I'm blocking it in
sure.
weird
And
ways.
that's not years away, it's right now. And there
Yeah.
are ways to do that right now. There are.
Yeah. And I think you're right. What'd you say?
I said there are.
Like maybe I need to be in your course.
Yeah, maybe.
But this really, it's nice to have a friend to remind me of these things, because
Mhm,
when I look back at it, when I was in my mid-20s, I decided I am going to marry this man, this type of man, and this is what I'm going to have, and this is how I'm going to have it, and this is who he's going to look like, and this is where this is, and I've had it all,
yeah,
and nothing's getting in my way.
mhm,
Nothing is going to get in my way of this. And it was all, and I felt it in my body, and I really did go into that place of, okay, he's here. How do I take care of myself? What do I wear? He wasn't there.
mhm,
What do I, so I, what should I buy because we're going out tonight?
mhm.
What should I do? What should I eat today? What should I buy because I'm making him dinner tonight? All these things.
How
And I
fun
lived
was
in,
that, right?
yeah. And it's true. It really was, because I had moved out of this apartment in New York where I was so overwhelmed at living in New York, and I was dating all these New York guys. And I said, I got to get out of here. And so I moved, and I found my alignment in living in this total country home with my
Mhm,
fireplace
mhm,
and nothing. I mean, literally, I had very little furniture. I had my fireplace. I had my office, which I wanted my office. I had because I worked, and I had my bedroom, which was like my little sanctuary, and my kitchen. And I had this really sweet place, but it was not where a 26-year-old at the time should live, because a
mhm,
26-year-old should, so I thought, be in New York City, not in the middle of nowhere. And my whole family was like, what are you doing? Like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was in that alignment and in that vibration that I was really happy. And I went hiking in the morning, and had a really strong meditation practice, and I started getting into flowering essences, and I started getting into aromatherapy. This is almost 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was not what people did. I was
Right.
but it's like, I've always been a weirdo, so why not still be a weirdo then? But I was really in my element. But I also knew that the man I was going to marry was not going to be this guy that was going to start bringing over aromatherapy and start making rose petal, tinctures with me. And he also was not going to be a man that was going to be like, honey, can you pass the rescue remedy? Like, I want some flowering essences. In fact, I knew that's not what I wanted. I wanted someone who would be like, okay, you do your thing, I'll do mine. Like,
Sure.
that's because I needed, and I also needed him to not be so flowery, because I'm just all pink and flowery, and that's who I am. So anyway, bottom line is that I did all these things you're saying, and I cleaned stuff out. I did feng shui. I got to make sure the relationship part of my home is and I did it all.
Yeah.
And I found these books that you couldn't find then. It was like,
Yeah.
I went to like new age bookstores,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it happened. And
Mm-hmm.
and when I met him, driving to meet him, because it was a blind date, I knew I was meeting him that night. I knew he was the one. Never saw a picture of him, hardly knew anything about him, but it was a knowing inside of me that this is now. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I saw him, I said, oh my gosh, I'm marrying him.
Mm-hmm.
There you are, marrying. So when I think about that almost 20 years ago, and I think about now how I'm not doing those things to up level where I know that I am going. I'm not doing these things in terms of what I know works. This
Mm-hmm.
is a reminder
Mm-hmm.
how essential that work is.
Yeah. And I think it's important, especially now, that we do this in community. The warrior doesn't act alone. There's a team involved. And, you know, it's about community. We need each other
Um,
as we're rising up. We need each other for support. We need to not feel so crazy and alone in going after this mission. We need
so
each
much,
other to be inspired and to have our backs and to know that we're going to be okay.
so much. And, you know, it, it's so true. And we need each other to remind each other when we second guess things.
Yeah.
Like, to remind each other, it doesn't matter. Don't second guess it. Just keep going. Keep going. I was with a friend of mine
Mhm.
yesterday, and this is so fascinating. She had bought these beautiful, like, gorgeous urns in her front property in the front of her house, and she and her husband had planted these gorgeous flowers in it. And she went into such fear. This is so huge. I just realized this right now, because she was just telling me this last night, and there was so much going on that it's really registering and integrating now what happened with her. She said to her husband, these are so beautiful that I'm afraid people are going to hate how beautiful they are and knock them over. And they're
Yeah.
vulnerable in her front yard.
Mhm.
So she went into this fear. People are going to, they're just too beautiful.
Yes.
They're way too beautiful. People are going to knock them over. People throw, rocks at things that shine,
Yes.
which so she went so that whole perception, people throw rocks at things that shine, people throw rocks at nice that what. And she started telling me the story about this woman that said to her, I don't want to live in a beautiful house because people will want to be my friend because I live in this house. And this friend of mine said to her, people aren't going to want to be with you if you live in that beautiful house. They're going to hate you because you live in a beautiful house. So her perception was, if you have beautiful things, people will hate you. If you have beautiful things, people will break them. If you have, all of this,
Mhm. And
So
imagine what that plays into herself. Like, if she's too beautiful, people will hate her. If
yes,
she's too beautiful, nobody will talk to her. She'll get broken. They'll hit her. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So, you know what happened? The deer came and ate all the flowers.
It's not that beautiful anymore. How lucky.
Exactly. So what did her perception create? She's
Yeah,
like,
I
these are
mean, you get what
beautiful.
you expect. You know,
Yes.
that's what she created.
And that's what exactly. So I'm thinking about this right now, and we have to switch that
Yes.
perception. People
Mhm.
throw rocks at things that shine. No, people are drawn to things that shine. So we have to shift that whole perception of because if we expect people to not like us because we're magnificent, because we expect that they're going to be threatened by it or whatever, then we are never going to be as magnificent, because we want community. We don't want people not to support us. So we won't allow ourselves to step into that. But if we shift the perception and we say, being magnificent helps other people become magnificent and helps them to see that things don't necessarily break because they shine. I can help another person to plant those flowers and keep those flowers.
Mhm.
And we change that perception, then we're changing the energy around it.
Mhm. And it's something really deep that you're talking about. I mean, the idea of people throwing rocks at something that shines, I mean, that is in our ancestral DNA. It is in our women's history. It's not that long ago in the scope of all time that women were being burned for being witches, for speaking out, for being different, being stoned to death because of shining too brightly, essentially. You know, it's not that long ago. I mean, it's quite a long time, but not like in the scope of how of all time. You know, we are in a place now where we can heal that. We don't have these same threats to our life. There are still some places actually where women do face these threats, but I'm talking about us and the women that can step forward to step into this work fully.
Yeah.
It is time to heal that wound. It is time to know that we're safe in who we are. It is time to find our voice again. It's time to do the work that it takes to forgive and to heal and to let go and to bless and thank the women that came before us, but know that our time is different. It is safe for us now. And how do we use that after we heal that? You know, then what can we do? Then how bright can we shine? Then how beautiful can we be? Then how much can we impact our communities, the world, thought in general?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So part of this course that you're doing is also going to help people to see that they're not alone in that,
And to
and to
heal it
help
and to
and heal
like
it.
pretend like, you know, it's, we don't need to pretend like it's not there. It is there. It's there for all of us.
And we're
But
not
we
going to
can heal
say,
it and we're safe and
mm-hmm,
we don't need to feel it anymore.
right. And we don't need to create more of that. And it's not, I think also when we shift our perceptions, we're not shifting them in a false way.
Mm.
We're being authentic and honest with ourselves. So it's almost like, okay, so some people do throw rocks at things that shine. Is that true? Yeah, it is. But
Mm.
the people that I'm attracting into my tribe want me to shine.
Yes. And with our warrior energy that we build up, like we have solid boundaries, we have our armor on, we feel our protection. So even if people are throwing stones, we're not feeling it. And even if we feel
Yes.
it, like it bounces off and like it's not a mortal wound, maybe it's just a dent. And then, you know, we have our sisters that we can rally together and they can witness what we've gone through and they can celebrate our accomplishment or our win, or even just the fact that we didn't get hurt as bad this time as we did last time. How brave are you? I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. It's going to be
Yeah.
even less next time. Keep going.
Yep. Absolutely. So I do think that what you're saying about, the warrior, um, energy being the time when you need to let go of the things that are no longer serving you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's essential because it helps us to 100% absolutely shift the perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if if we're going to be realistic that might some people throw rocks at things that shine, right? If
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be realistic about it, does that happen? Yeah. I mean, has it happened in history? Yeah. So what needs to shed is not necessarily only the perception, because the reality is that does happen,
Mm-hmm.
but allowing those people to have power, the people who will throw rocks at things that shine, do not any longer have power over me,
Mm-hmm.
and their words do not any longer have power over me, and their trying to bring me down does not longer have power over me, and their passive aggressive nature of ignoring me when I'm shining, or pretending they don't see me when I'm shining, does not have power over me, and I do not need that person's friendship or that beach club community in my life, because when I show up in my whatever, they throw rocks at me, so I'm moving on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of the student saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that I'm going to cut my cords of them altogether and say, you're out of my life. It just means I'm no longer going to be spending my energy and my time around there. But when I see them, I'll be kind.
Sure.
So there's that release in order to move on, and for the student, for example, to find another environment, which could be that, who knows, it could be a beach club, it could be that she's working in a soup kitchen and she's in service mode, who knows, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever's right for her, but where she's going to connect with her sisters, and where
Absolutely.
they're going to say, wow girl, you're magnificent, show me some of what you have,
Yeah. And then show me some more.
and then show me some more, and then I'm going to learn and I'm going to show you some. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not this, because I think one of the problems with the law of attraction is that we start to say, okay, you have to change your thoughts and reaffirm this, but if our body and mind and soul is saying, I'm changing my thought and I keep doing all this work to rewire my neural pathways, but my neural pathways won't go there because something inside of my whole entire soul knows that what I'm manifesting is not real,
Mm-hmm.
and what's real is what my soul knows, then we can't actually truly change the perception. So instead, it's a matter of, I embrace this part of myself that maybe doesn't feel worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's part of my upbringing that has made me feel like I'm not supposed to shine. I embrace that part of myself. I will not pretend that part is not here. I am working on healing it. And
Mm-hmm.
as I'm working on healing it, I am by all means avoiding all the energy of others that feed it. And
Absolutely.
I am feeding this new way
Mm-hmm.
instead.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
And
not a
I
matter.
think,
Mhm.
go ahead.
It's not a matter of pretending that it's not there.
No, and that's you brought up law of attraction, and that is the place where I think most people get off track with manifesting or aren't manifesting the things that they want to. It's because like they think just by telling their brain like, oh, I believe I'm a
Yeah,
millionaire, so where's my $1,000,000? But
right.
inside it's like, I don't deserve $1,000,000. I don't feel good.
Yes.
Why, who am I to have that much money? What would I even do with it? People would hate me, they'd throw rocks at me. But you're so focused on like, but my mind says like, I must focus on it and I must pretend like I feel really good about this. And we learn to ignore the opposite of that that's actually happening within us. And then we
Yeah.
keep attracting the thing we really feel that we're ignoring. And then you're even more mad, like, where's my money?
And right, then you're
It
more
doesn't work.
frustrated.
But actually it's
You're
really
not in
working because
alignment.
you're getting what you're really asking for, which is
Right.
more evidence of how you're not worthy and how you don't have it and how you can never have it and how people will hate you and all these things.
Yeah. And I think that's the huge, that's the huge part of, you know, that falsity about it that gets people so frustrated. Like, you know, I know this one woman who, I adore her. She's great. But she used to always, she's got some health issues, and she used to really just complain all the time. But now she's starting to like get into this whole, you know, she's starting to read some of these books on changing your mind to change your life type thing. So now when I'll say, how are you doing? She'll say, I'm great. But in her eyes, it's like, I'm still not, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I watch that and I think, whoa, what about
Because what
saying,
she's really amplifying is, I'm sick, I'm in pain, it's not working.
yes,
I am not
exactly,
great. I am not great.
exactly,
And she's putting
exactly. And
that amount of like power and pressure that she's screaming, I'm great, into those other things that she doesn't want to be.
exactly. And then she's also not creating a community for people to be there to support her. Instead, is creating this false kind of her own false truth with other people's false truth. And you know, when you're in conversations with people like that, I mean, for me, I find it like that's like I can't stand small talk. And when I'm with people who are like, oh, everything's so wonderful, everything's so this, everything's so great, and that, and we just got this, and we just bought this, and you know, and I love this, and then we're going to this place for dinner, and we're going there for vacation, and I love, and I sit there and I'm like, that's great. So how are you feeling? You know,
Yeah.
like, what are you, oh, and I feel great. And I feel, if you're with that person every single day and nothing changes, you really want to know what's going on in there.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes when I'm with people like that, sometimes I just want to break the ice and I'll be like, yeah, I had a really weird day yesterday, and I'm, you know, I had to work my way back to get to my alignment now, but I started to feel this, and then all of a sudden they just kind of look at you, and it's almost like, wait a minute, am I supposed to actually share what's really going on inside? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this, what I think what we want as in this community as women is we want true authentic friendships. We want truth. We want alignment. We want real. We don't want that sugarcoating.
Mm-hmm.
We also don't want that, I'm great. And we definitely don't want that whining, like, oh my gosh, you know, this, you know, what's ever going to happen? Look at the world now. This is just, oh my, I'm just going to go hide in my basement with cans of food, and I'm going to make sure that I get enough water. And, you know, then we're like, oh, so we don't want that vibration either.
Mm-hmm.
But that vibration is better sometimes than the fake vibration that is even, you know, that's not even real, because there's nothing worse than the lies. I mean, we got the truth. So those lies, the lie vibration is just like, ew. At least the lie vibration, I mean, at least the whiny vibration, you can help lift them up. With the lie vibration, you're just like, I'm looking at a wall. Like, who am I really talking to? So I think that what is so important with this whole concept is I am stepping up, right? I'm stepping up with the, you know, your course, right? And this course that you're doing is so amazing. You're going to help so many people. So, you know, they're stepping up, or so I'm stepping up into I'm up leveling, right? I'm up leveling, and I know what comes along with that. I know it can be scary. I'm doing it. I know what has happened in the past when I've done this. I know that there have been people who haven't liked it. I know what that feels like. This time, as I'm doing it, I am also going to make sure that I engage my tribe, and I tell my tribe, you know, whether people are in your course or they have their own other tribe, I tell my tribe this is what I'm doing, hold my hand. And I know they will, because I trust I'm doing this in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to deny what can happen if I don't have everything lined up with my tribe first. I'm not going to deny, because I know that other truth. I've been there, and I can't pretend it doesn't happen. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, whoa, right? And that, I mean, the tribe could be a handful. You could count your tribe on your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to remember to reach out to our tribe and say, girl, I need you right now. You know, I got your back today. I need you to hold my back. I'm stepping into something. And we know that those people are the ones who are going to go, I have your back, and they're going to mean it. And they're not going to be the people who we know will maybe say they want the best for us, but don't really, because we do have those friends in our lives, and that's real.
Mm-hmm.
Or people, or not necessarily friends, but peers, right? Because we're learning how to not call them friends. We do have those peers.
And there's also people that are emotionally invested, or who, once you change the rules, they didn't decide to change the rules. They don't want anything to change. They're happy playing that game. So then they're upset because you've changed the rules.
You're right. And who are you to change the rules? You just,
we were doing just fine, right?
Yeah, it was all fine before, and now you've offended me. Like, now what you just
offended, like, you're just making me uncomfortable because you're different, and I have this idea of how I think you should be, and you're not being that. Like, I need you to be who I need you to be for me.
Yeah, for me.
Yes.
I need you to be who I need you to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that is, yeah.
And that can be hard, because you don't want to hurt people, and you want them to feel proud of you because you're doing this amazing thing.
I had this friend once. This is interesting. I had this friend once who I'd been friends with for years, and she's adorable. I love this. She's funny. She's cute. We've known each other since we were 5. And she's the youngest in a family, and she always got whatever she wanted. Her brother and sister are a lot older, and she always got whatever she wanted. So she's used to that. And our relationship was always, okay, whatever she wants, she gets. So I always knew that about her, and I played into it.
Mm-hmm.
When we got a little older, and then once I had kids, and it wasn't going to be only her way, and I was saying, no, it's going to be my way too, she didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused some friction. And then I got to a point where I said, this is not the way this is just not how I feel comfortable in friendship, because anytime I said no, it was, you're not a good person. That's what she would say to me. You're not a good person. Why aren't you giving this to me? And why aren't you, I need this. And she was so used to me accommodating her.
Mm-hmm.
And she is a very likable person. She is this, she's a very magnetic person, but the people in her life have to be the people who will always. So I had to back off. And for years, she would say, I don't know why you've done this. You really hurt me. You backed away. You're not there for me. You
Mm-hmm.
make time to be with other people. You don't make time to be. So it was all about her. And she emailed me the other day. And when she had emailed me, it was really her way. That she wasn't in the place to talk to me, but she was in the place to email me. So she was going to email me. And so it was up to me to read it. So of course I read it. And I read it. And as I'm reading it, I have this pit in my stomach, because I'm waiting for her to just go off on me on how I haven't been the friend that she's wanted me to be all these years. So I'm waiting for it to come out. So I wrote back to her, and my first sentence was, I'm really glad that I was able to get through your email, because my immediate reaction when I saw your name was, I'm going to be honest with you, was my whole body contracted and cringed, because I was waiting for you just to lash into me. And she wrote back to me and said, "What? I don't want you to ever cringe when you see my name. I don't want you to ever." And, then there's a couple more emails back and forth, and they were loving. They were,
Mhm.
I mean, she's a good person. They were loving, but I am that my um my needs are that people are going to recognize that I have needs too, and it's not always going to be the other person's way, because I've grown into this person now who
Mhm.
has, who deserves to be treated
Mhm.
this way, right? So, but it was a loving toss back and forth, but it was very interesting because I did observe my contraction, and all the times when I would just know if I didn't give her things the way that she needed them to be, she would lash out. And she was like that even when we were like 15, 16.
Mhm.
And that's just the way she gets. So I realized I was being her real true friend,
Mhm.
probably more now than ever, because I basically said, you literally made your email and your name made me want to cringe. And now she can hold that in her life to help her in her life.
Yes.
Right?
Well, it was that you didn't enable her. You, for the
Yes.
first time, said, I'm not codependent anymore. I'm not enabling this behavior. I'm going to tell you the truth of how this is. And respecting yourself enough to know that my voice, my needs, my ideas, my decisions are just as important as hers.
Exactly. And so for the people that are taking your course, those are the kind of relationships that they're going to learn they don't need to be codependent with anymore, right?
Absolutely.
And that sometimes,
Absolutely. And that's a hard one because it's like we want to be loved, we're good people, we want to do the right things, people need us, it feels good. But it's a tricky line between how much of myself and my power and my voice and my being can I give away? Can I quiet? Can I squelch? Can I dim for the sake of other people? And like how can I be giving it all away and rise to the place that the planet needs to be at right now?
and I think that we can't
No, we
keep
can't.
giving,
You can
we
either be that person or you can be the leader that you're meant to be. You can't be both.
right. And so in order to level up and be what the planet wants for all these women, right?
Hmm.
Taking your course, or all of us that are being called
Yeah,
to up level, there the reality is there are going to be those moments that are hard because people aren't going to like the way we are operating, and they're going to tell us, or they're going to
yeah.
avoid us, or they're going to
Hmm.
get passive aggressive with us, or our mother-in-law is going to say, that was unusual for you,
Or
or
can't you just quiet down? Like, can't we just have dinner? you know,
exactly.
like,
Exactly.
can't
And
you
so,
just get along?
exactly. And in those moments, it's going to be that part of us is going to come back to that place of, I don't want to do this anymore. That's too hard.
Hmm.
And that's when we have to say, like I remember one time when I was on the phone with Sarah, she and I had plans on talking, and I had been in Colorado, and we had plans on talking on that Friday morning after I'd done this whole video series with Yoga Journal. And on the Thursday night, we did a Facebook Live, and we were on the sheepskin because that's how you practice Kundalini Yoga. And this Facebook Live went viral to animal activists. And I had literally thousands of people like throwing hate at me. And I remember that it was Sarah who I had that phone call with the next day, but I got so sick from what happened that I could hardly even talk on the phone. And here she was there holding me saying, gotta let it go.
Hmm.
But what I was saying was to her was, I don't want it anymore. I don't want this anymore. I just want to go home. I just want to get into my bed. I don't want to put myself out there anymore. I don't want to be in the public eye anymore. I can't handle this. I can't handle all this backlash. I can't. And she just listened to me, right? But what a gift it was, because in that moment I really did feel that way.
Sure.
But what a gift it was for it to be that I had the conversation with Sarah that morning, instead of one of my friends who are like, get home, don't ever do it again. I don't blame you, because there are those friends and they're
Absolutely.
beautiful, but they're like, I don't know how you do it. I could never do it. I don't even put my picture on Facebook. I don't know how, so,
Right.
and I do, those are great people too, but that
So
feeding into my
friends who remind you who you are, who
yes.
see you for who you really are, and don't let you give up, because it's that important. It is that important that you get up again the next day.
Yes.
And try again.
Yep. It is. And it doesn't feel good if you don't. You feel defeated.
No. And that feels worse than the haters.
It does, because then what is the quote, it's harder to stay tight in the bud than it is to blossom, It's true. I mean, we've all done that, right? Where it's like, okay, let the haters win. I'm just going to go under the covers now. And it's fine. Let them win. And it was interesting because I was talking to the editor at Yoga Journal, and I was like, just take the video down. And she was like, we don't want to let them win. And I remember having this conversation with her saying, they're not winning by us taking it down. They're not. They're only going to win if we back down. But by taking it down, we're just not letting that energy be out there, because it was so bad. And I don't want to be exposed to that kind of energy. And it's alive right now. The energy's alive. Just take it down. I don't know if it was the right decision or not, but I needed it down. And so they did take it down. But I remember thinking, I'm not going to feed them. I'm not going to feed into them. I can't feed into them, because when I started to go into that place of, okay, now I'll never carry a sheepskin anywhere I go anymore. And now I'll make sure, when I started to do all of that, I started to feel defeated. That's when I did feel defeated. But weird things happened. Like this huge Kundalini festival was coming up, and everybody knew about this thing, and everyone uses a sheepskin. Not everybody, but most people. It's part of this, the protocol of the, when it was brought over to us, we were taught to use sheepskin. But some people have gotten away from them. But what was so interesting was this huge festival's coming up, and the people that were putting it together have nothing to do with Yoga Journal, but they hear all about how, oh my gosh, Karena, got attacked for being on a sheepskin. Like, she was like the one that's changing the rules for all of us now. And they sent a mass email out to all the teachers that were teaching there, saying, and I was one of them, so I know this because I got the email saying, we are not teaching on sheepskins anymore.
Wow.
So it's really interesting, right? But that also did make me feel like, okay, that's more defeating, because that's more feeding into the fear.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the intention, I guess. Is it about the love and respect for the sheep, or is it about the fear of the comments?
Well, it was the fear of the comments, because
there's like, it could have been like, well, yes, maybe we shouldn't be using sheepskin. Maybe, we should be more loving to animals, or however you want to go.
Right,
which is fine and great, and very nice for a sheep, but if the intention is like, well, that's just one more way we can protect ourselves from fully expressing who we are, then it's diminishing.
Right, exactly, because it is true that I was having conversations with some friends who were like, well, I don't use, a sheepskin, and I don't, I don't agree with using them anymore. I practice Kundalini Yoga on, a blanket. And I was like, good for you. That's awesome. And I really was, that's fabulous. And then I was talking to other people who were like, I have sheepskins all over my house and I love my sheepskin. And I, in fact, another, not Kundalini yogi, but another yoga teacher was in Yoga Journal that month with her sheepskin. And I called her and she's like, I have sheepskin everywhere. I love my sheepskin. And I was like, God, wow. I was really respecting that these people were being authentic in who they were, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then what was interesting is that then I saw someone with, and this is the way the universe works, I saw someone too afraid to use a real sheepskin. So she bought a fake sheepskin. And I saw her at the festival after what I had been through. And she came up to me and she's like, oh my gosh, now I have these environmentalists saying, why are you using whatever that fake stuff is, that's so bad for the environment. And I said, had you had your sheepskin, you would have been in your alignment and you wouldn't have necessarily attracted that. And maybe for me, I actually am happy with my sheepskin because I have one that I use and it's got beautiful energy and I bless that sheep that's in heaven. And I feel like, hey, this, and I know that it was sourced from a place where it was farmed, from a place where the sheep was not killed for the fur. And it's, but anyway, that's besides the point. But the truth is when we are in our alignment and someone comes at us with something, it doesn't matter as much.
Exactly. So this is going back to the idea of building your warrior protection. Like, it wouldn't matter as much. And maybe you would just decide like, okay, I'm turning off the comments. Like, this is not supporting me, but my mission is to share this truth and work coming through me. Or maybe you're not even looking at the comments, or maybe you're not getting them to your phone, or whatever it takes to just like, my job is to do my job. My job is not to monitor the internet police, like,
exactly.
It's none of my business what they're saying. And in your queen energy, maybe you have somebody that manages that for you. And just like, you don't look at it at all. It doesn't even touch you because you have somebody handling that. And you're paying them and their dreams are coming true. And they get to like do their thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. So true. But at the end of the day, it's all about being in alignment with whatever it is, right? So
absolutely. And I think that it for the modern woman at this time, I think these are three energies that we can boost in ourselves. I think these are three energies that we need a little green juice to get us going. We need some more energy in these superpowers that we have, that we've forgotten or keeping hidden, or only do
or been afraid to use. Yeah. Well, I need to go. I have to get let's see what time it is. We've been on for a while. I only have 1% battery here too, so I guess
it's time. It's perfect. Thank you for this. It was really fun to talk to you. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Make the video public and I'll watch it. Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.